Hello and welcome to Marketing Speak. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer, and today I'm very excited to have Ian Garlick with us. Ian is one of the country's go-to experts in video marketing and storytelling. He's a best-selling author of 3 marketing books. He's recorded 300 episodes of The Garlic Marketing Show, created over 10 marketing courses, and produced more than 2,000 videos for his clients. Ian, it's so great to have you on the show.
Stephan, thank you. I'm excited to be here and get all nerded out talking about marketing.
Okay. I'm sure some of our listeners are saying, did you mispronounce his name? So
No.
let's just get that out of the way because, you know, it's Ian, not Ian.
It is, and it is garlic, just like it sounds. And, everyone asks me, my dad's name was John, and Ian is Gaelic form of John. And my mom decided garlic wasn't tough enough, so they mispronounced the Ian into Ian. So I have to have multiple conversations about that, and then everyone loves the fact that my wife's maiden name is Curry.
That is pretty awesome. Okay, well, we got that out of the way. Now, I'd love to hear a bit more about how you got into the storytelling side of video marketing and not just on the tactical production quality and all this sort of stuff, because there are a lot of marketers who malign the whole storytelling angle as like, oh, that's just fluff. You need to know all the technical nuances. You need to optimize and split test and all this sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. And I know you got the chops for that too, but let's just get the storytelling side of this dialed in for our listener first.
I grew up in a family of storytelling. My dad was, like a lot of people consider him a great marketer. So I was always around storytelling. We always told stories. And, if you look up John Garlic, you'll see crazy stuff that he did. But what happened was really, I loved marketing. And I didn't realize how much I loved it until, I really started to try and figure out what I wanted to do, and I did a bunch of different things. I worked on Wall Street. I was a trader. I worked in commercial real estate in New York City. I worked at the best restaurants in the world as a bartender, and stories were always part of it because it's what people remember. It's what people pay attention to. It's what influenced people. And I always tell people like nothing's changed more minds than the right story at the right time. And every religion, everything is storytelling. So it's just because it's a nuanced thing that people think, oh, it's easy and it's not something that I really have to focus on. But, you look at the best comedians in the world, and right now I'm taking a stand-up comedy class for that reason. They work they work the beats of the story. They work every piece of that story to make it incredible and memorable, and how they deliver it. But
the unexpected turns that they like. They give A, then leads to B, then leads to C, and then it goes completely off track, and you're expecting it to go in the straight line, and that's how they get you. And you should be doing that with your writing, your videos, your podcasts, and everything else. Like the unexpected delight and surprise angle needs to be incorporated throughout.
Yeah, exactly. And you have to have a collection of stories. That's the other thing too is, comedians, there's not one joke that Eddie Murphy for, or one joke. There's a few comedians out there that were one joke, but they're like one-hit wonders. And same thing in any business. You have to have a collection of stories, how you tell those stories. I got into legal marketing and worked as a consultant in one of the big companies, and the best marketer, the best salespeople there just collected stories. They'd go around asking for other people's stories. And I realized how important that was. Building up what we now call a tackle box of stories. Your stories are your hooks. It's what draws people in. You should have a collection of them. You should put them in one place. You should work them. But over the years, when I got into legal marketing, I also realized that every client wanted someone different, and they had someone different in mind. And, there's only so far you can go with a standard attorney website. But once video came out and you could really get into it, and Google bought YouTube, I was like, man, we're going to be able to get the right story in front of people over and over and over again. And that's when I realized that, hey, we've got to get really good at this storytelling thing. At first, we could just put video out there, and you could put good video out there, and people would watch it. But now you've got to really work the stories, because to get people to pay attention, first of all, and then keep their attention is work. And so that's, what we got into. It's because you can deliver the story, get it to number one, but if you don't get anyone to watch it, YouTube's not going to reward you by ranking it anymore.
Recently I interviewed Brendan Kane, and he's the author of Million Followers and his new book, Hook Point. And that was a really great episode where we talked quite a lot about getting that remarkability factor, not just memorable, but something that is worthy of remark. Mm-hmm. Not only remembering the video, commercial or whatever it was, the interview, but also being able to, wanting to remark about it to others. And this is a key distinction. And if you don't have that remarkability, or you don't have the hook point that drags them in within 3 seconds, you don't even get the opportunity to give them that remarkability factor, because they've already left. So
yep.
What are some of the things that you do with, let's take some of the most boring videos that people have to be subjected to. Let's use testimonial videos. And I know I'm throwing you a softball here, because I appreciate it. I've heard your presentation, and fantastic, which is why we're talking today. But so testimonial videos, typically super boring. It's just fluff. There's no hook there. There's no remarkability. It's just platitudes. It's just a lot of nice talk about the company or the person, and there's, I don't know, it's just boring. If you're at the final stages deciding between two different companies, you're going to want to watch those videos so you don't make a $1 million mistake or whatever. But if you're not at that point, the likelihood of somebody watching those videos on your YouTube channel is pretty much nil, I would guess. So how do you work your magic to make a testimonial, the most boring kind of video typically, into the most engaging?
Well, first of all, we never ever shoot testimonials. We shoot stories. We don't talk about testimonials, because while it should in theory be a story, that what you just said is exactly true. We think of testimonials as, Stephan, if you said, Ian, will you do a testimonial for me? I'll be like, I would just talk about how great your podcast was, right? That's boring. But if you ask someone about their story and interview them about their story, you're going to find stuff. You're going to find those moments, those emotions. And you really have to care. You have to know who you're talking to, right? Who you want to tell the story to, what you want them to get out of the story. That's what every great storyteller is they fashion that story for that person they're talking to. They know their audience. And then you have to know what you want to do. And then you have to really know that person you're talking to and know where we're going to lead this. It's journalism in a way, but you've got to dig deep for those moments, those emotions. You have to actually get the story arc. Why should I pay attention to you? What were your problems? What is your life like now? And very rarely are those great stories very centered on the provider, who that story is about. It should be centered on that person. But you've got to dig deep. That's the other part too, is so many times you think that this is going to be a boring interview and testimonial, and then you really start asking questions, and you find that part. And, the one things I do, I don't know how I do it, and I don't know why, but it's like a lot of times people will start crying when they are doing this. They'll have that release of emotion. And it's because you just care and you find that moment. And when you can do that, it goes from something that's boring to something that's incredibly insightful to watch.
So give me an example of I'm going to use the word testimonial here, but it's a video case study for a client of yours that, or maybe it's for your own company, that elicited that kind of emotion, like crying or just something visceral that came from that customer or client, and just walk us through how you were able to create that.
I mean, we did a lot in legal marketing, so we have a ton of those where we find that story. But I think one of my favorite ones is she's since become a friend because she was part of a friend's program. But my buddy Tanner Larson over at Build Grow Scale, one of the best e-commerce Shopify coaches out there, run his own agencies, and we interviewed his clients. You go in there, and there's a lot of emotional. You would think e-commerce store owners, how much emotion can there be, right? Generally these are people that are very numbers driven, behind the scenes people. But there's one, and she's amazing on it, Anna, and she tells a story, because we were talking about e-commerce, right? And it's like what she was doing and how she was getting better at it, but then we start talking about what that result meant to her, and she opened up and started talking about how it transformed her relationship with her daughter, with her mom. She was able to be a role model for her daughter, and she started to break down. And I still get emotional thinking about it, but it was that moment because you're like, wow, this program transformed her life, and which would on the outside be a dry, because when we do stuff for family law, divorce or accidents, or one of my clients is criminal defense clients. There's one on there. If you go to 5280defense.com, there's one that's someone that was accused of sexual offense, and how they got him off of that and how it transformed his life. Those are pretty obvious emotional things, but something like this, where it could be easily dry, you got to dig in and find that moment. But when you find that and someone starts to show that emotion, man, you cannot turn your head away from it no matter who you are. And that was, a perfect example. And since then, I've talked to Tanner, and they play that over and over again at their events. We've shot that, I think, 6-7 years ago. I can't imagine what the ROI is on that, because it's just over and over again. You show that moment and that transformation.
Right, and that could be used not only on your YouTube channel and on your praise page or your results page, but it could be on your sizzle reel for, let's say, when you're on stage at a conference. And this is what's presented before you come on stage, is this 2-minute sizzle reel. It includes not just TV appearances, which is great social proof. It's powerful. But to the storytelling angle is missing from that. And a good sizzle reel has great storytelling and is very emotionally impactful. So that's,
for sure. Another quick example, if you go to, Fran Tarkenton, who's legendary football player, we're blessed enough to have them calling us to help them with the video strategy, which, the guy was on ABC Wide World of Sports. So that was kudos. But what we found was you could talk to Fran. He's inspiring. He's one of the most inspirational speakers. But then we start collecting their stories. And these are insurance agents. They help market insurance agents. Boring, right? But story after story we found, and we dug deep about how they help these insurance agents through the hard times. And if you go to their homepage, you will see that right away, how it was integrated into their overview video. So it's not really a testimonial. It's not really the story itself, but it's integrated into the overview video on their homepage, and it transforms that video.
I bet that's really cool. So what are some of the elements of success? And I'm just going to give you an example of one that comes to my mind that I learned a while back. I don't remember who I learned it from, but it's been very, very powerful. And that is to ask for an example of, or just for them to speak about what the objection that they had to overcome in order to, or the concern that they had to overcome in order to hire this company. So for me, it might be, what was the big thing that made you almost not hire me as your SEO expert or my agency? And it might be, oh, well, you were twice as expensive as everybody else. Can you talk about that at the beginning of your video? Sure.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And that goes from, Stephan's amazing, his SEO has changed our lives, blah, 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 just puffery, to, we almost didn't hire Stephan.
Yep.
He was twice as expensive as everybody else. And you know what? We took that leap of faith. We figured that we'd get twice the results. And wow, we've gotten 10x the results we were anticipating. He's paid for himself 1,000 times over. It'll be the next century by the time the ROI runs out or something like. I don't know. But that objection obliterator changes everything, and the objections people don't even necessarily articulate yet come through that video, and they're like, oh, I don't even have to worry about that.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, and those make for, one thing we always do when we edit case stories is we make cold, warm, and hot versions. So what you're talking about is a hot version, meaning someone's not only problem aware they need SEO, but solution aware they know they want to work with Stephan, and that's a great hook to like you were saying, to counteract what you were thinking. Like, oh, he was way too expensive. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna watch this, right? Conflict always draws attention. So it'll draw the attention and overcome objections, which is super, super smart to do. And it's so many people just drop the ball on that one.
Yeah. So there's an element of headline writing here to make sure that the title of the video is enticing and curiosity inducing. Because if you don't have that, then nobody's going to even watch the video and get that there's a story arc and that this is really good storytelling.
Yep, exactly. We will work that hook over and over and over again. We have so many discussions about our videos, and I call it the Motown technique, because Barry Gordy, they talk about it. How about him and Smokey Robinson? How many hits did they have? So many hits for Motown, right? You look at it, and more hits than any other label out there. And what they did is they worked that 10 seconds. They would get in a room the first 10 seconds and work that first 10 seconds and work that first 10 seconds. And we do the same thing. We're always looking for that hook in that story that we can put out and place out that grabs someone's attention, drives the curiosity, makes them want to watch, gets the emotion. It's important, and it's work, but you got to do it.
Yeah. So what would be an example of a headline or two that really stand out that you've worked on for your clients?
Geez, that's a big one. I look at so many of them every day. I'm like, I don't, off the top of my head, my best subject line ever, this is just completely off topic, is my most open subject line ever was free beer. But that's a whole nother story. Like car accidents, when someone goes, I never thought this would happen to me, right? When we see that, or it was the worst day of my life, those are some of the things that we look at, those moments of I couldn't believe I was standing there, that type of thing. I'm sorry I don't have an exact example off, because we just go through so many of these.
Well, those sound actually quite good. Like there's a hook right there. I can't believe this happened to me, or I can't believe I just walked away from this.
Yeah.
Not in a casket, right? So those sorts of things will intrigue people, creates that tension that they feel they have to relieve by going to click and watch the video or read the story, the blog post, whatever it is.
Exactly. And which is, if you're, let's say you're a personal injury attorney, no one ever thinks they're going to get in a car accident. But the stats are most of us have been in one, right? And, I personally, in my life, my wife, my mother-in-law, my mom have all been in serious car accidents. But no one ever thinks they are. So when you're marketing to people about personal injury, it's really hard to get them to pay attention unless they've just been in an accident. And that's what you're trying to do most of the time with SEO, right? But with that type of hook, you can get someone to pay attention and remember and be like, oh, if I'm ever in a car accident, I want this person to help this person.
Yeah, really good. So give us some best practices for these case story videos. Like what are some of the key elements, and how do you coach the client in a way that doesn't feel pushy or too directing, but you get the result that you're after?
I mean, so when we do this, I mean, the first thing is to have a strategy around it. That's why we start with what we call a case story tackle box. Is you have to have a plan in place of what you want, the story you want to collect. What do you want to do with that story? Because there's tons of stories out there, but if you know what you want to do with the story, you can go out there and then you make a list of those stories and the elements of those stories you want before you start asking for them. And then you need to regularly ask for the stories. One of the things with our service we found is like getting people on is sometimes the hardest part, just getting them on because they get nervous on video. But then you got to warm up the client on the interview side. You have to be a good interviewer. You have to care. You have to know where you want to take the conversation. And you have to find those moments and emotions. That's really, you still want a story arc. You want I'd say the 3 C's of story. You want connection. You want to connect with the person. You want to know the conflict and you want to know the conclusion. But if you can find the moments and emotions, those can tell the stories like we just talked about. Like, I was standing there dizzy, dumbfounded on the side of the road at 4:00 in the afternoon. Wasn't sure if my wife's alive, right? It's like, we're there. And, and we're dealing with that emotion. And now I'm drawn in. And that's the biggest key, is to find moments and emotions. And it's work, but you got to do it. And it's worth it because this is fundamentals of marketing. That's one thing I say. It's like, it's the free throws of marketing. No one wants to practice free throws, but guess what? Those are what win championships. We just saw it. Milwaukee Bucks won a championship because Giannis shot 18 of 19 from the free throw line and turned it around and wins championship. Will Chamberlain, I always tell the story, 100-point game. The reason it was, he shot 86% from the free throw line. And, case stories are the fundamentals of any marketing campaign.
Right. And you can't rely on the client to just shoot the video on their own with their iPhone and then send it to you. That you're going to get just garbage in return.
Yeah, you got to have a conversation. You don't get very few people are natural storytellers. And that's why having conversations is so important. We're good at having a conversation and telling a story in a conversation because we interact with a person, right? We see a face. We know how to do that. So most people are not going to hop on a camera. That's where you get the deer in headlights, right? Like, oh, Stephan was great. He was the best SEO ever, right? Versus just having a conversation, having someone that's good with a conversation on there. You'll find it.
Yeah. So what would be kind of a script or an outline to take the person through? You're going to ask them first about the like what was the situation that brought you to work with us, or are you going to ask them like what was your decision making process like? What was the big objection that you had? And I'm presuming you're editing out all of your questioning so that it's no longer part of the final video.
Yeah, we edit out all the questioning. Yeah. But really we start warming them up and having them talk about themselves. We want to get that connection.
Got it.
Why should I care about this person, right? And why? You might start with a hook of their problem, but and how we edit that video, like I said, is going to matter where you put it in the customer journey. If you're trying to get cold traffic with it, it's going to be a different video than if someone's about to, that you put on your proposal. But we always start with getting them to talk about themselves, and then themselves, what their goals are, what they want, what they don't want, those emotions. And then when they first knew that they had a problem, what were the first signs of the problem? And what else did they try, right? We want to know what else did they try with that problem. Because, that can help overcome some of those objections. Like, I was trying to do the SEO myself, or I hired an internal SEO person. I hired a VA for SEO. I did this for SEO. Someone built me bad links and destroyed my website, right? We want to get all those problems out before finally it's like, I needed to find the best expert. And, and then how did they, like you said, how did they search for that? Where they look? Now, this is a great SEO tip. I've done my best keyword research in case story interviews because you will find terms I've found literally $1 million terms. My clients have made millions of dollars, and I can't share any of them because, they're low keyword volume, super high intent, and it's really hard to find because but you will find those search terms in there, and you can optimize for that search term really fast with a case story. And so you find how they search, what the experience was like, what their expectations were like. What was the first point that they knew that it was starting to work? When did they feel like it was really working? What is life like now? Because really the best stories are stories of transformation. And, how now that my website's ranking, you're getting great traffic, but what does that mean? What kind of traffic? How is your business different now that you're number one for this thing? What is your life like now that you're number one for this thing, right? Those are kind of things that we always want to look for.
Totally makes sense. Now, I'm curious if you have an example of a cold traffic video and how that would differ from, let's say, a proposal video. As you described, these are different videos because people are in different parts of the buyer journey. So what is maybe you could even give me a role play example of a cold traffic case story versus a proposal one.
Yeah, I mean, so like for you, for cold traffic, right, for SEO, let's say, cold traffic might be solution unaware. Like, I knew I needed more traffic for my website. My website did nothing for me. People early on are solution unaware, or maybe they're just, I was just trying to get some, there's certain things I was trying to rank for this, and I was trying to see this, and I saw my competition. Like I find a lot in attorney marketing, attorneys think that people rank higher than them, and they're like, well, this person isn't even as good an attorney as me. Why are they ranking higher, right? That might be the way I intro if I was doing legal SEO video, right? Because they're solution unaware. They're really don't understand SEO. Now, a warm traffic would be like talking about, I've been trying SEO for years and I didn't think SEO could work for us, or I thought SEO was dead. I might start with a hook like that and talk about what they've tried. And then a hot traffic one that I put on a proposal would be the one you talked about. Like, Stephan, Stephan was really expensive, I thought. I thought this was way too much until 6 months later, right? And then I'd get into that, then I'd have that story and bring that conclusion into the end, like, and how their business is transformed, like you said, and the ROI. So those would be the three different versions that I would create. And what's great about it is if you can do it right and keep people telling that story and they keep seeing the same person tell a different version of that story, they begin to trust that person innately, because you can't help but see someone and hear someone's voice over and over again and not trust them. It's called the mere exposure effect. That's why branding works. The more we see someone's face and hear their voice, the more we know, like, and trust that person, whether you want to or not, unless that person is doing something very abusive to you. And even then, I mean, when you hear about the Stockholm Syndrome, where people connect with their kidnappers, it's because the more we see someone and hear them, the more we know, like, and trust them.
Right. So you mentioned earlier about how the best stories are stories of transformation. Let's take an example from, let's say, let's think of something really boring. How about plumbing? Okay, so a plumber fixes toilets and whatever, right? So what does the story of transformation look like, and in particular the story arc leading to that transformation event, and then after kind of the resolution for something as mundane and quotidian as a plumber and calling in a plumber?
Yeah, and so this is a great point of what type of plumber are you and who do you want as a client, right? Because if you're an emergency plumber, it's like it was 3:00 in the morning and it's the second night I've been up trying to fix this thing, right? And I've already called out one plumber and again, I'm working on it, and I can't sleep at night, and my wife hates me.
Right. He called 3 other plumbers, and they didn't call back, or they didn't answer the phone, even though they said they were emergency plumbers. And really milk that story around availability and how a person was at the end of the rope.
Exactly. And then what's it like now? It's like, oh, it's great. I get up in the middle of the night, and if I have to go to the bathroom, I don't have to worry that every time I flush, that it's going to explode on me, right? This is where knowing who you're talking to helps us to know what story we're looking for. Because on the flip side, you might be like a restoration plumber, and my water was kind of gross coming out, and my kids, I was worried about my kids. I just didn't really feel good in my house because of my water. And then now I love being at home, and I don't have to worry about every time I see my kids drink out of the faucet, because I know my pipes are new, and it has very little to do with the actual technicalities of plumbing, right? It's that transformation of and that's knowing that it's a family, right? Maybe it's a single guy that wants, just like, every time a new girl comes over, I don't have to worry about her, the toilet gurgling at her. But that's, it's fine. And what's great about stories, and if you're constantly looking for them and constantly interviewing people and you have intent, is you will find the stories. You will find them, and you will look around. Same thing, like I said, with stand-up comedy. It's, one thing I'm learning is everything's kind of funny if you look at it the right way. If you start looking for jokes. Same thing with stories. If you start looking for stories, you will find them, and you will get them for your videos. You will get them for your marketing.
Now, there's this expression about the cobbler never bothering to make the shoes for their own kids, and that's a common excuse that agencies and video marketers have for why their own About Us video or About Me video isn't stellar, or their own channel doesn't have very many subscribers, or they don't post very often their own videos. What do you say to that?
I mean, it's tough. It's hard to do it for yourself. It is very, very difficult, because I make a lot of videos, and I look at it, I'm like, and there's no one there really coaching me. There's no one saying, yeah, that's good. There's reaffirming you. Now, there's some people, I mean, no offense to influencers out there. There's a lot of great influencers, when we think of thought leaders, but many of the thought leaders I know, that you think are really successful are pretty narcissistic, right? They think everything they do is great, so they have no fear of putting stuff out there, because I'm like, I'm great, I'll put out videos. But most of us are not that way, and so we make a video and we're like, I don't like that. So not having a coach or someone, that's why I love working with agencies, because I'm like, most of them are always ashamed of their marketing. And I work with so many marketing agencies that come to like, I'm sorry, I know I need to do this. And I'm like, that's common. It's common. It's like being your own lawyer. You can't be, or doing surgery on yourself. It's really hard to have the perspective that you need without having some sort of outside help to promote yourself. So that's what I say. That it's just you really shouldn't come down on yourself, because it's really, really hard to do for yourself.
Yeah. And how do you counter someone who says, why are you not doing this for yourself? Like, you want me to hire you as the marketing expert, and you're not even doing the things that I think are basic, like having a good YouTube channel and having interesting videos and all that. I don't see what. How do you respond to that? Because you can't really say, well, I'm busy, or I'm self-conscious, or I'm too wrapped up with my clients to put any energy on my own marketing. Like, none of those excuses will fly, because they're excuses. So how do you counter that one with a prospect?
I don't get that one that often, but I mean, if you're not doing your market, it also depends on who you're going after, right? I mean, I've always sold with case stories. I just present them in a different way. So, and if you are in a B2B environment, like let's say SEO, if you're not doing enough SEO for yourself, it might be that, your clients, it's not the highest use of your time. Maybe it's out public speaking. Because your clients need SEO doesn't mean you need SEO. When it comes to case stories, I think everyone needs them. We use them. I just use different versions of them. And I use a lot of it in direct selling. Like I'll show them. It was day one I started using video case stories in my before I even started our agency. Because I knew I needed to. Back then, 15 years ago, when I was working with lawyers, no one knew what SEO was. Most people are like surprised the internet was still around 15 years ago. They thought, oh, that .com crash happened and the internet shut down, right? Like, no, you still need internet marketing. So I had to use stories. But if it's other types of marketing, like websites, right? If you're in a B2C environment, you need a great website. B2B, you still need a good website, but a lot of that conversation happens outside your website. B2C, you've got to have a good website, and it's got to convert, and you've got to have CRO and all that stuff. B2B, no one stays in a funnel, especially higher level B2B. No one stays in a marketing funnel, but you still should have retargeting. You should still have the rest of that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm curious, your company website, storycruise.com, doesn't have a praise page, testimonials page, results page, anything like that. It's got hire, learn, how it works, join today, and partners. You do have some case stories featured on your homepage, but where on your site do all of these case story videos live?
So, and that's a good point. For our stuff, it's in retargeting.
Okay.
We do a lot of funnel-driven stuff for this website, and we're actually rebuilding this website. This is us connecting people to videographers. We stopped using. We're going with a different route at this, and we're doing direct connection, where people will call us up instead of having a directory. Because we found that, what we found is a lot of videographers that we're connecting people with, we're not good at calling people back. So while they were good videographers, they just didn't know how to run their business. So we were actually altering this website. We do a lot through funnels. That's a place where we do a lot of lead gen through funnels and a lot of email marketing. But we have testimonials, case stories floating around in our retargeting. You might see them now.
So do you have another website then that's more of your agency services?
Yeah, sure. Authenticweb.media.
Authenticweb.media. Okay. And that has a section for all of your case stories.
Yeah, it has examples of case stories we've done. Authenticweb.marketing. This is something I'm not super happy with the messaging, but it's good we're busy. But you'll see a lot of client stories on here. You'll see examples of our work. You'll see an About Us story. It's not the best About Us video, but here's a good point. Is I'm in the other agency group. I'm like, I need to find someone that does what we do for me, because it's really hard to decide a lot of this stuff if you don't have someone on the outside looking in.
Yeah. It is not only difficult to see what's happening in your own, I don't know, we get myopic in our vision, and it's hard to see what's going on in our own business, but it's also really hard to see what's going on with your own stage presence or video presence. And then for me personally, and probably a lot of the listeners can relate to this too, there's not a lot of interest in watching the recordings of, I don't want to cringe watching myself on video. So I never watch the videos. I don't watch the recordings, whether it's me on stage speaking live at an event or it's me doing a pre-recorded video. I don't love watching those over and over again and analyzing what I screwed up and how to make it better. It's just
it's tough.
It's uncomfortable.
It is, and that's why having someone to coach you along is important.
Yeah.
And work through but if you look at back to the sports analogy, right? The best athletes watch those videos over and over and over again, but they have a coach there going, okay, this is what really went wrong, right? This is what really went wrong, not what you think. Because I have so many people, people watch their videos and they call out stuff. I'm like, no one's paying attention to that. They're like, well, there's this thing in the background, and I don't like the way I looked at that thing in the background. I'm like, no one in the world notices that except for you, right? It's really hard to get outside, to have that outside perspective.
Yeah, we do tend, generally speaking, to be hypercritical of ourselves. Like, oh, my hair doesn't look that good. I need to reshoot it.
Yeah. No, yeah. And for most of us, people are attracted to something like that. They want to know that you're a real person. Some of our worst videos we've done are the people that are the trained experts on being on video. Because it comes across, it lacks that complete authenticity. Yeah. It does. And then it's hard to connect with someone who's perfect on video.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, so true. And with About Us videos, or About Me videos in particular, those tend to be one of the most boring videos if you look at a typical About Us page, because it's all about them, and it needs to be more about, there needs to be more involvement of the viewer in pulling them into the story, and not just, first I did this, and then that inspired me to start this business, and then we just kept growing, and it's just, accolade after accolade. None of the dirty laundry is aired in those About Us videos, and then just 10% of the way in, people give up.
Yeah. I always tell people that About Us is about them. It is, right? If you're at a cocktail party and you just start talking about yourself, if someone comes up to you and just talking about themselves at a cocktail party, you're like, oh my God, that's boring. And that's why I always say to people, like, if what do you think of that person? You want to walk away from them, right? And then the other thing is like, and if you don't know who that person is at that party, that's probably you. Right? Because no one wants to hear that, but a great storyteller will go, oh, Stephan, you're an SEO. I got to start SEO. SEO is tough, isn't it? Being an SEO agency is tough. That's the kind of thing that your About Us needs to be. It needs to be about that. And that's where, case stories come in, and integrating that and really telling the story of why you want to help that person and you're good at it and what was hard about getting good at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. Do you have a particular template, outline or something for a great About Us video?
Yeah, generally, once again, hook. There's some elements I like in it. And then, I always want to have a good hook. Why should I pay attention to this? That's one of the places I would want to have testimonials, like your traditional testimonials. And then, once again, the transformation. What was difficult? Where was the point where you realized you were doing something wrong or needed to do something better? And how did you come about doing that? I want to know, yes, I want to know your accreditations, but what does that mean to me? All right. Once again, coming back, let's say with SEO that you're 15 years, that's great. Or you did this and you knew all these technicals, like you wrote a book. What does that book mean to me? The fact that you wrote a book, the fact that I've taken the time and I've taught the best people in SEO, right? That's the kind of thing that I would want. Why is the book important to the person watching? And then core values. I like to have something about culture and what your core values. Why should how do we line up? Why should I like you? Those are some of the elements I like to have in there. How it's arranged really depends on what's strongest in your business, because some people have some of that, some people don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But always a good hook. Always a good hook.
Yeah, very important. So let's get, for our last couple minutes here, into some into some tactical weeds here. And let's get specific into YouTube SEO, because you have all these great storytelling videos that are on your YouTube channel. And yes, you're going to direct people from your website to that those YouTube videos. But what if somebody is just like doing a Google search or a YouTube search, and this is their first point of contact, assuming that you do your YouTube SEO well, where they're going to first enter your funnel is perhaps watching one of these case story videos.
Mm-hmm.
So what would be some of a few of the most powerful tactics around YouTube SEO? And I'm guessing that playlist might figure in here, but you just go through whatever some of your favorites are.
Yeah, I mean, I think the place where most people drop the ball, that's the easiest low-hanging fruit, is optimizing for your name of your business, your name, plus reviews, plus results, plus some of those things, like, in the name of your company, because that's what people are going to Google. And yes, there are review sites, but it's an opportunity for you to have your client stories showing up in the Google search results, which that video will draw someone's eye and they'll watch that, right? Because at this point, they want to know more about you, and it's kind of a third-party source. So, and then from there, I move out, tactically. Long tail FAQs are awesome, because especially around you, and then pushing out in the customer journey. And when I say out, I mean from the buying point earlier on. Those are some easy points, but the more you can, when it comes to YouTube, it's content. You've got your technicals. You should definitely have really good keywords, right? Basic keyword research. You should have a well-written description. Don't put a ton of links off your YouTube video right away, because YouTube doesn't want to promote stuff that is taking you off of YouTube. All right, and a lot of people, I see that, like, let me link stuff, that outbound link. YouTube doesn't like that. They want people to stay on YouTube. But what's the other thing that YouTube wants? And this is why I always tell people in SEO and YouTube SEO, think like that company. YouTube wants people to stay on those videos as long as possible. So the more information you can get them, the more you can engage them. If it's, you're teaching something, the more you can be very specific and go, here's what I'm going to teach you, and be very specific about it and get that view time, and then throw the chapters in there so that they see what's going to come on. You can get people to get that view time. If you can get that view time, that's going to be very important. And then the speed of that first view time is going to be important too. How fast can you get, keep pumping people to that YouTube video as fast as possible. So if you're driving outside traffic to YouTube, YouTube's going to reward you by showing that video to more people. I mean, those are some essential ones. Local search is important, but thinking about this too. If you are in a referral-based environment, you are going to, people are looking for a referral for you. So if you can have customer stories ranking, because customer stories will get that view time. A story will get that view time. It will get that relevance. It will hook someone. They'll get to watch it. And if your customers, if I'm looking for SEO services and one of your best customers talking that 5-6 minute story of their transformation, I'm going to watch it. YouTube's going to reward me by ranking that video for SEO services.
Yeah. That's good stuff.
So,
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Now, I know we're out of time. So where would our listener or viewer go to work with you and your team, to learn from you, to read your books, all that? Where's the best place for them to go?
Sure. I mean, if you email me at ian@storycruise.com, if you want any of the resources here, I'll send it to you. I'll send you my LinkedIn. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. When you get a team, if you want to get if you want to learn more about the Tackle Box, that's great. Or follow us on the Story Cruise YouTube. We've got a ton of videos on YouTube. That's one place we do spend a lot of time.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ian, and thank you, listener. We'll catch you on the next episode. And in the meantime, do some of this stuff, get it done, and make a difference in the world. We'll catch you on the next episode.